I'm Russell Beard in Myanmar, where a team of designers are helping farmers stay one step ahead of climate change.
And I'm Doni Kanile in central Mozambique to find out how one community initiative is finding a solution to the jobs versus environment dilemma.
Myanmar is already feeling the effects of climate change. In recent years, the monsoon's been up to 40 days shorter than average. And while the country's interior is facing droughts, the coastline's getting battered by storms that are more frequent and more ferocious than ever before. And no one feels these pressures more than the rural smallholder farmers. They make up the backbone of the country's food system and its rural economy. I'm Russell Beard in Myanmar, where a social enterprise is helping farmers not only survive, but thrive.
Myanmar is going through a period of major political, economic and social reform. Practically isolated from the global market for 50 years, its economy is still largely dependent on agriculture, which makes up nearly half of their total GDP. Most of these farmers are smallholders who struggle to grow crops using ancient and time-consuming techniques. Myanmar-based non-profit Proximity Designs was set up to help them.
Great, how are you doing? Russell.
They started with low-tech irrigation solutions, and their star performer is the pedal-powered treadle pump.
This pump is red rhino.
And someone that actually stands on here,
Stand on here and
right.
operate.
And that's where the tread of treadle comes.
Yeah.
So it's like a combination of treading and pedal.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Farmers often spend around 6 hours a day in the dry season filling buckets from a well and manually watering crops. Seeing how this was holding them back, Proximity designed this pedal-powered water pump to cut irrigation time. It's now part of a large menagerie of pumps from the red rhino to the baby elephant, all designed and developed here in Myanmar.
The proximity in proximity design, what does that mean and why is that important to your model?
We are very close to our customer with our deep empathy.
Okay.
Yeah, this is our meaning behind.
Thanks to a network of data-gathering agents, Proximity have clocked up thousands of hours of field research. They have an intimate understanding of the problems that Myanmar smallholders are facing.
And these two become the pistons for the suction.
And these will be attached to the...
Yes, attached to the treadle.
They're constantly refining their range to create products that farmers who earn as little as $2 a day are willing and able to pay for.
We're trying to source almost all our components from the local, and especially those industrial zones close to our factory to make it affordable.
So it comes down to that proximity again, doesn't it? It's all about that communication to keep the production flowing, keep the water flowing.
And it's not just pumps, they also make drip irrigation hoses, all designed to be as simple and as low cost as possible.
You said the next stage is actually quality control. They're going to test out one of our baby elephants to see if it's good enough to add to the pile. It's much lighter. I thought you'd be really having to work at the pedals, but actually it's very, very light. And it's a lot easier than carrying up to 3 tons of water a day to irrigate just a small farm.
But making this stuff is just the beginning.
We've got pumps, we've got hose pipes, the drip irrigation system, and the spare parts. That's the cool thing about these systems is that they're totally modular. So if one piece does fail, then they can just swap it out and the farmer doesn't need to buy an entirely new set. Where's next for these? Where are they off to?
They will be going to the express bus gate, then they will go to the field.
From taxi to truck to public transport, and then onto a network of some 900 scooter-driving field agents, Proximity's products find their way to even the most remote parts of the country. They've sold around 90,000 units so far, but with millions of people engaged in agriculture here, they've still got their work cut out. Myanmar's dry zone covers nearly 55,000 square kilometers in the heart of the country. One of the main challenges facing farmers here is climate change. Shorter monsoons and rising temperatures mean severe droughts have become more frequent in recent decades.
Because here 10 acres over there, and at the foot of the hill, another 10 acres, altogether about 50 acres.
Wow, that's big.
See that way?
So
When the water is here, he thinks everything will be all right.
Yeah, good soil, but just not enough water.
This year, Bo Sway is planting papaya and he's bought a drip irrigation system to water the new crop.
You can see how dry it is. When you get up close, it looks like the field's covered in rocks, but this is actually earth. It's like concrete.
By using drip irrigation straws, farmers use 70% less water, reducing pressure on groundwater supplies while increasing yield.
So these are long, thin tubes that we saw them measuring out there in the workshop. And these are the secondary tubes. So you've got these main auxiliary pipes in the middle, and these are like your veins. And then once these are run up through the middle, they're going to put those tiny little ones in, which are like the little corpuscles. So it's a very kind of natural system.
The
700 kilometers south in the delta, where the Irrawaddy River meets the Andaman Sea, is the country's rice-growing heartland. As well as being the staple food, rice is the keystone of Myanmar's economy and is the main income source for more than half the population.
So this is the most important rice-growing region in the country, and a lack of rainwater up north is having knock-on effects down here, because less fresh water in the river means that salt water from the sea is able to creep further and further upstream. It's making its way into the rice paddies.
In many ways, this area is on the very front lines of climate change. The risk of saltwater intrusion as a result of droughts inland is exacerbated by storm surges and floods, which are becoming more frequent. In 2008, Cyclone Nagris destroyed 700,000 homes, killing 3/4 of the area's livestock and flooding 1 million acres of rice paddies with salt water. MYINT is an agronomist at Proximity Designs. He set up a team called the Farm Advisory Service to provide farmers with knowledge to help them adapt to the changing conditions. For the last 3 years, they've been monitoring salt levels in the delta.
We know that the salinity will come along this area line by this month of January. And in February to this area, the salinity reach, and March has come to this area.
Since rice is sensitive to salinity, irrigating with water that's too salty can mean the difference between a full harvest and a complete crop failure.
In rainy season, there's a lot of water, so that they push down the tide, so that the tide didn't, the salinity not much intrusion into land in an area. So it is like a tug of war, so that the seawater push up and then the volume of the water push down.
I love that, the idea of a tug of war, because it looks like one river system here, but what you're saying is there's actually an invisible front that's moving up and down depending on the volume of fresh water in the river. And that's the salt intrusion you're talking about. It's really, they're up against each other. And you're trying to map that.
Although saltwater intrusion has always varied with the seasons, MYINT suspects it's now encroaching further into the delta for longer periods of time.
So up to 2 is okay, 3 is borderline, but 4...
It's above the 4.5.
Above 4.5, that's the cutoff.
As we go further downriver towards the sea, the salt concentration keeps going up.
.8.
Yeah.
So that's well over the tolerance of most rice.
We can see in the graph that even last 2 weeks it's not recommended. Last 3 weeks we are not recommended to any irrigation. If irrigated, all the crops will ruin.
Would be ruined, is that right?
Farmers here say that because the freshwater period is getting shorter, they now only grow one crop a year.
When would this have been harvested?
December, around December, yes.
Okay.
Apart from that small fields, all are empty.
MYINT thinks these fallow fields represent a missed opportunity. He's developed a simple solution, and it all comes down to timing.
This is the first year that we try in this area.
Okay.
So you can see it's almost ripening, and then they are going to harvest today.
He and his team are proving that it's actually possible for farmers here to grow 2 crops in one season. If farmers plant a first crop earlier in the year and then use a faster growing variety of rice for the second crop, they can squeeze both in before the water salinity gets too high.
First crop is June to October. After that, they don't grow anymore. Now we try to put another crop.
But the key is not just when to plant, but when to irrigate. High tides bring too much seawater, and the high salt content would kill crops. So it's actually when the tide is lowest that the water is safest to use. It's deceptively simple, but it's taken a lot of effort to get here. And it's this simplicity that's helped the technique take root.
It's very happy right now.
Yeah. Because if it wasn't for this, you would have finished harvesting already. So this is extra.
So normally he wouldn't have any income at this time. So this is an extra income for him.
Because it's pretty good, isn't it? All of the other fields that you see at the horizon are all brown. They've already long cropped their rice and they're just going to be fallow for the rest of the season. But yeah, it's a bonus.
There are many farmers that are staying in this area. They are watching. And then next year, it will be more farmers will grow whatever crop.
Farmer KYAW was the first in his village to trial double cropping and is a true convert.
This is your house here. This is great, man. This is great.
3 years on, and he has enough disposable income to build a new house and a hurricane-proof barn.
How much rice is in here?
Chao Seko.
Chao Seko.
Okay.
What's that?
67 tons.
67 tons
Okay.
in here. Wow. How much can you make from that?
24 grams.
Wow. Nice work. No wonder you're smart. I mean, it's a big thing, isn't it? We're talking about providing food at the end of the day, and we've got a growing population, and there's the added challenges of climate change. What's your hopes for the future?
When KYAW's neighbours saw his barn full of rice, the benefits were clear. Several farmers followed suit, and now this year the whole village is double cropping. 400 acres, all bonus crop. That's money in the bank to help ensure farmers have the resources to cope with unexpected problems and to weather future storms. MYINT and his team can't stop the climate changing, Eventually, a combination of saltwater intrusion, rising sea levels, floods and droughts may make it near impossible to grow crops in some parts of the country. But by designing ways for farmers to adapt, the proximity team hope to help them stay one step ahead in a changing world.
While cheap air travel is good for our bank balances, the demand for cut-price flights is an increasingly significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. But the future of aviation could be both brighter and greener thanks to advances in solar aircraft. The Swiss-made Solar Impulse 2 has been built to attempt the first round-the-world solar flight, able to fly day and night, powered purely by sunlight. The plane has 17,000 solar cells built into the wings, which supply 4 electric motors with renewable energy. Although the wingspan is greater than a Boeing 747, it weighs no more than the average car and can travel just as fast. During the day, the solar cells recharge lithium batteries, which allow the aircraft to fly through the night. The designers hope their sunshine-powered plane will help promote the use of renewable energies and ultimately decrease our dependence on fossil fuels.
There is an ever-increasing tension between our right to live and caring for our most precious resource, the environment. According to the UN, South America and Africa lose forests at a faster rate than anywhere else in the world. After years of civil war, Mozambique is rebuilding itself from the ruins, but this development can come at a heavy price. I'm Doni Kanile in central Mozambique, where a local community project to break the cycle of poverty is not only growing skills, but futures. It's a Sunday morning at the main market in Beira, where charcoal is one of the most common products for sale. Now this charcoal that we're about to buy is what most people would use in their home every day. If you want to make a cup of tea, you want to make a meal, cook breakfast for your family, you're going to be using this every day. Charcoal is produced here by cutting down trees and burning the logs in earth-covered pits. Around 80% of Mozambicans use it for cooking, but this dependence on dirty fuel is having a devastating effect on the country's indigenous forests. Cost 5 metikash. That's about 3 cents. I mean, it's nothing. For Manuel Joa, the trees are his livelihood. But every year his journey to collect wood gets longer, as both local and foreign logging companies continue to chop down trees at an ever-increasing rate. What do you think will happen when most of the trees in the forests in Mozambique are gone? This is the classic jobs versus environment dilemma that is at the heart of this crisis, because people need to cut down trees and use charcoal for survival, but at the same time, their survival depends on the very trees they're chopping down. This road stretches from Beira Port in central Mozambique to Nampula in the north. It links up with Mozambique's inland towns and other landlocked countries like Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Zambia, who rely on these trucks for essential goods for their economies. As you drive along this road, stockpiles of wood wait to be loaded into these containers and shipped out of the country. There are many pathways along this road that lead into thick forests. One of these is taking me to the MEZIMBITE Forest Center. So I'm on my way to meet Rui. He's the second in command and runs some of the operations here at MEZIMBITE. He's going to walk us through what MEZIMBITE is actually about and some of the really interesting activities that they run here. So let's go through. Rui.
Hi.
Ndoni.
Hi, Ndoni. Pleasure.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having us.
It's an honor to have you here.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see how everything works.
Oh, please. Follow me, please.
Thank you. So how long have you been involved here at MEZIMBITE?
Well, this is a 20 years route. This is a 20 years history.
The entire center. The name MEZIMBITE means iron wood in Msena, the local language. But for people here, it means home.
So these trees are 20 years old?
Yeah, the first tree that was planting was that one. And then this all became our first experimental site.
A regular day here starts early in the morning with the center staff sharing breakfast. Then it's time to start work, creating beautiful objects from wood like panga panga and hardwood. But this wood doesn't come from chopping down trees. The artists here use discarded wood from logging activities and local factories. The center employs up to 100 people, making it one of the largest employers in the area. Rui Santos, an architect by training, has swapped the air-conditioned comforts of a city studio for the heat of the workshop here at MEZIMBITE to oversee innovation in product design. Sarah used to work in the nursery division planting trees, but now takes great pride in being able to craft wood products that will be sold around the world.
So you know that there's a problem in Mozambique where a lot of the trees are being cut down and the forests are disappearing. What do you think about that? Is it something that worries you? Do you think people should stop cutting trees down as much as they do?
Vamos se destruir, não vamos ficar mais aqui. Mais pouco.
Mais pouco? Okay, a little bit more.
Mais aqui.
Aqui? Okay, try. Must work hard. It's tough to get a job here at MEZIMBITE. I need to brush up on my skills if I'm ever going to come and work here.
The center produces high-end products for several international companies, but ensures it remains environmentally conscious.
It's not only about telling people not to do, it's to show an alternative for them, a different way to do it. We still are one of the poorest countries in the world. Of course, we have these fantastic resources to use, but people don't understand how to use them.
Traditional Indian and Portuguese-influenced wood carvings are unique to the Zambezi district of Mozambique. Senor Alvaro Mario is one of the center's master carvers. This former soldier says he's happy to be keeping age-old traditions alive. As well as creating jobs, the center has an educational program that nurtures specialized design skills, as well as providing education for the children in the community. The center is also the largest planter of trees in the whole country.
MEZIMBITE is also trying to show that it's possible to replace. You need this balance with what we take and what we use and what we have put back.
Yeah. But it's interesting saying that you, over the years, have planted, over 10 million trees. I wonder how many of those trees that you planted have subsequently been cut down.
We estimate that in one hectare, we have to plant 200 and 300 trees for at least 100 to survive. The capacity that we have now, it's 500,000 trees annually, but we want to do 1 million trees annually.
And I'm able to make a small contribution to that challenge as I get an opportunity to add one more tree to the area to celebrate International Day of Forests.
What we're busy doing is that I'm about to plant one of the most iconic African trees, the baobab. If you look around at this area, there's a big difference between the forested areas that we saw back at the center and this area that has very few trees. And hopefully, in 20, 30 years' time, if we come back, this baobab will have grown to provide a shade for a whole lot of people.
Wow, look at this enormous cavity. It's like a big concrete cylinder.
And we'll travel to the Netherlands, where they're drawing on centuries of experience to become world leaders in adapting to the rising seas.
We try to use the water to come up with solutions that make our cities perform better.